Welcome to today's interview. I brought on Dayana Aleksandrovais. Dayana, welcome.
Thank you so much.
For those that are new to you, please give a little background. Where do you live and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm a full-time digital nomad, which means that I travel and change my home base about every 3 months. I'm currently based in Palma de Mallorca in Spain. So looking outside of my window now, I'm looking at this like postcard green, blue water. So that will be my home for the next couple of months. And then I'm off to Sweden.
I love that. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your background because what you're currently doing is not where you came from. So I'd love to, if we could share your background, but also what was that change in trajectory to get you to where you are today?
Sure. So I actually was the first person from my family to ever get on an airplane. I was born in a very small town in Bulgaria, which is in Eastern Europe. And I always knew that I really wanted to travel. But again, because of passport restrictions, politics back in the day, my family didn't have that opportunity. So I grew up watching MTV. And I remember that by the time I was about 10, I had kind of taught myself English with a decent accent. And then I studied English in school. And when I was 15, I had the opportunity to apply for a scholarship to be an international student. So I applied, and to my absolute surprise, because I was a very, very shy kid, I ended up getting that scholarship. And just like that, almost overnight, I moved to New Hampshire, where I was schooled for 2 years of high school on an ashram, where the values were kindness, respect, and scholarship. And
Wow.
that changed my life because everything that unfolded from that moment on, me going to college in the US and ending up as a digital nomad traveling the world, that was kind of the result of this one pivotal decision to apply for that scholarship and eventually getting it.
That's amazing. What got you into, I know you're very much like a business mindset coach and marketing and stuff. How did you even get into that?
So I'd always been fascinated by how some people are so insanely persuasive and just so diplomatic. And I didn't study any of that in college. I studied ancient Greek philosophy in college, so talk about a useless degree. But I had always enjoyed writing. And even though I didn't study it, I had always been journaling. I had always been writing little blogs. And about 2020, when the pandemic hit, I realized that instead of me blogging online, I could actually learn how to become a copywriter and write sales pages for products that I liked, such as, personal development programs and other cool things. So I studied copywriting, got certified, and I ended up building a business that grew into a six-figure business in about 13 months with my love of writing and persuasion. So this is how the marketing piece came in.
Yeah.
And because I managed to build this business as a copywriter, about 2 years after, that was a fact, a lot of people started DMing me on Instagram like, hey, D, like, how did you do it? I'm a new copywriter. I'm aspiring to do what you do. Can you business coach me? So that's how the business piece came in.
Okay, so you're saying that you can make a living doing what you want to do and enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And no, the reason I say that, a bit sarcastically, because I feel like, especially in the US, the paradigm and the cultural norm is you go to college, you get a degree, and then you go work for a company, especially like I come from old school family. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked for one company until he retired with a pension. That is not today's world. And so
Right.
it really is a shift in paradigm. But for you, I would love, let's talk about the mindset piece in business. And I want people to know that, yes, we're talking about business in this instant, but let's talk about mindset and how they can use this in every area of life. I love to share a little bit my background or experience, and then I want to hear from you. I truly believe mindset is everything. And I have had very expensive lessons in business, going all in on strategy and tech and building a website and doing all of that, lacking the mindset piece. I had to come up against, I call entrepreneurship personal development on steroids, but I had to come up against myself and, release the self-doubt, imposter syndrome, procrastination because somebody with those traits and habits could not build a successful business. So I'd love to hear from you, your experience and the mindset piece of building a business.
Oh, you're so right, Heather. So mindset is everything because your thoughts determine your actions, and your actions eventually determine your life. So my first job outside of college was a door-to-door salesperson for Verizon. And that's when I learned a lot of mindset because you had to be almost on your best game anytime you went to approach a stranger and knock on their door and pitch them to sell something. So for me, what I've had to learn about mindset is really a fundamental thing. Most people think that first you have to get what you want so you could do the things you want so then you can be the person you want. But I'm sure you notice first you have to be the person you want,
Yep.
then do the things, and then have the result. So for me, I had to think about, okay, who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And one thing that came to mind immediately was that, oh my God, I have to completely change myself. What do I need to do to become this person? And it's not really a question of that. It's a question of how you decide to show up every day. So I went through a number of personal rebrands in my life, and the fastest way that helped me really elevate my mindset was just start dressing better right away. So, for example, when I've been working from home, which has been the case since 2017, instead of showing up in a t-shirt and sweats, I mean, I love my sweats, but for work, I've trained myself to wear a nice shirt, put some lipstick on, just show up as if I'm already the CEO of a six-figure or seven-figure or whatever company, somebody that is in charge, somebody that people respect, and someone that is in service. So by becoming that person first, by being the leader I want to be, from that place, I start to take action. So for example, I have a lot of clients that are building businesses and they say something like, oh, I don't believe that I can get any more clients. And when we dig deeper, it's because they feel like when they do get this next client, they're going to be so pressed for time and so overwhelmed that they can't spend any time with their 3-year-old anymore. So me, from that perspective of the CEO, I say to my client, well, what if you hired a team? What if you hired a basic VA hourly? And so they do that. They're like, huh, I didn't think about that. So then thinking as a CEO, you take the action of, let's say, hiring some help. And then the result is you have time for your family and you have extra money because you're able to take on extra work. So I think the most important lesson that I have learned in mindset is that first you have to be who you want to be, then you're going to do the actions that you're supposed to from that place, and then you will have the results that you're craving.
Yes. Okay. I want to highlight that because that is a very simple 3-step process. Be, do, have. Where I feel like most of us are kind of have that backwards. Once I have the money I desire, once I'm in that relationship, once I have a better paying job, then I'll be happy, then I'll whatever. But we are telling you when you become the person, now I don't believe it's fake it till you make it because that's a disconnect with your subconscious mind. The way I phrase it or think of it is embody it until you become it. Embody it until you have it. So you are saying you got to walk the talk, you got to speak as if, you have to feel as if, and I'm with you. It is very easy, especially working from home, working for yourself, just to hang in athleisure. But for me, like today I'm wearing a dress and I curled my hair, and because it just it makes me feel good. And our energy changes, like who we show up as is also what we're going to attract or experience in our life, right?
Absolutely. And I've noticed that too. Some days when I don't feel like I want to do anything but lie in bed and read Hello magazine, not my proudest, I put on my shirt and I put on some nice earrings and I'm like, okay, wow, I feel like I'm about to do something cool. I feel like I'm someone who matters. So it's definitely, I totally agree. I don't think that fake it till you make it is the way to go, just because I mean, we talk about imposter syndrome all the time. And what is worse than faking it consciously to stoke on your imposter syndrome? So that's one thing we don't want to do. But what
Yeah.
we do want to do is exactly like you said, embody it. So embodying, could mean you literally assuming the role, speaking in the tone of voice as the person you want to be, wearing what they would wear, reading the things they would read, going for a coffee at the places they would go, just very, very simple everyday things.
Something you said, and I love this term, I can't say I've heard that before, but a personal rebrand. I guess the way I think of it is an identity shift, or what I coach my clients through is creating that version 2.0, stepping into who they would need to be and show up every day to create whatever it is they desire. Can you talk more about this personal rebrand and how, we change and evolve over time?
Of course. So everybody now is a walking brand. And this is not just me speaking as a marketer. This is just me speaking as an observer of the online space for over 10 years now. So a brand is a collection of your beliefs, of what you support, of what you stand against, of your, way that you dress and colors, shapes, the people you associate with, and your mission. So all of these things together form your brand. So if you think of, let's say like Bella Hadid, the model, for example, her brand is somebody who is very deeply empathetic. She talks about donating money to Palestine all the time. She likes to ride horses and be outside. She's a fashion icon, but she also helps a number of charities, and she's known to be a very grateful person. So this is a brand, right? A brand is also somebody like Kylie Jenner, who's all about like makeup and appearances and wearing thongs and Saint Barts and stuff like that. So, there is a way to apply your brand for a very different audience, but you're completely in charge of your brand. And like you said, Heather, it is something that shifts just like the way that you want to express yourself. Because the one thing that will always anchor you is your authentic energy. So if you are on the inside a kind person, someone who likes to be in service, somebody curious, someone who likes to continue being better day after day, that will not change. So don't worry about, oh my God, who will I become? You're just finding a different container, if you will, a different packaging for you to present that energy. And, in my early 20s, I was a travel writer. So I would wear like crop tops and braids and big backpacks, and I would travel. In my mid 20s, I tried the startup life. So I would wear like pencil skirts and cool sneakers and go to sleek offices. And now in my early 30s, I like kind of casual chic. I like my hats. I like this whole like sailor vibe and living in places close to the water. So you're always in charge of your brand, and you can choose to refresh it. You can choose to show up differently whenever you want. But don't worry, it won't change who you fundamentally are on the inside.
Well, I think a lot of people are wearing masks,
Mhm.
who they show up in, especially social media, right? The highlight reel. We don't know what's people are showing their best face, but it's like, what's going on behind the doors? Before we started recording, I love this phrase that you shared with me, and I want to help individuals, listening and watching to this. What you said is you can redesign your life. And that's what I'm really big on. So I would love to hear from you. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but a phrase that I've heard often is what's called the mirror principle. That life, our current circumstances are simply a reflection of our past thinking, our past thoughts and emotions. Life is a mirror. Your current bank account is simply a reflection of, your past self-worth or whatever. So if somebody is feeling stuck financially, health, relationships, career, business, or more, what can you share with them about redesigning your life? Start over, write a new narrative. Where do they begin?
Right. So first you have to begin with the idea. So this is where a lot of people get stuck because they don't allow themselves to dream in that way. So one thing that I do with myself and my clients is I have them write a letter. So write a letter to yourself 6 months from now and say, hey, future Anna or Simone or whatever, you are sitting in Paris at a cafe. You finally took that trip that you've been postponing for 20 years. Write that letter, really visualize where you want to be. If you are someone who is a visual person, then having a vision board could help definitely. But it all starts with an idea, and then you write the story for that idea. So again, that goes back to being the person that you want to become. Because when you decide to redesign your life, think about the ultimate product and then reverse engineer. So if you want to be, I'll give you an example. If you want to be someone who's a digital nomad and travels all the time, and you're currently grounded, and let's say you live in Atlanta and you work at a desk job. Okay, this digital nomad person, what are some things that they have and what are some things that they don't have? So they don't have, a home that they're paying monthly rent to. What they do have is a good travel rewards credit card that allows them to collect a lot of points and buy tickets. What they don't have is a desk. What they do have is a job that allows them to travel and work from anywhere in the world. So the first step really is to come up with the idea and be fearless, be unapologetic about this. Who do you want to be? What do you want to see in the mirror 6 months, a year down the line when you look? And then reverse engineer, what are some things that this person has and what are some things that they don't have? And then think about your personality too. So that person you want to become, do they care what their colleague is going to say? Do they care about, will they still go to that Friday night girls' night if they've got a migraine and they really don't want to go, but they're afraid of disappointing people? How will they act? Will they stand their ground? Really think about all the attributes of that person you want to see in the mirror and work backwards from there.
Okay, I love how you brought that up. And the two things I wrote down really from that example is one, it's creating clarity. And two, it really is being fearless. It's letting go of that ceiling. And the saying, the sky is the limit. I do not believe that. I believe your your beliefs are your limit. How do I say it? The sky is not the limit, your belief system is. That's how I say it. But something that you just said, I just want to share, and then I want to ask you if there's any rituals or practices you do, very intentional practices on how to stay in that forward focus. So something I did earlier this year, if it wasn't end of December, it was 1st of January. And here's what I did. And I read it and I review it every day. And as things have come about, I'm checking them off. But what I did, and you write it in present tense. So this piece of paper that I wrote it out December 31st, 2023. And then I just talked about more or less like a year in review. What happened this year, where I traveled, things in business, my social circle, etc. And as these things are happening, I have a green highlighter that, yep, that happened. And that happened because we are manifesting every single day. It's just whether or not you're a deliberate creator or creating by default. So I'd love to hear from you. Do you have any practices that you do on a regular basis to keep you forward focused?
Sure. So I do something very similar to that. And I love that, Heather. So what I would do is on a little sticky note, I would write what I want to achieve in, let's say, 6 months. And I would write little notes, cut them out, fold them, and put them in a box. And then put the box somewhere that I can kind of see, but I don't open for 6 months. And it is freaky. I've been doing that since college. It is freaky when you open that box. For me, something like 80% of everything that I wanted had come true. And I also write them in present tense. So, I'm living with my soulmate. I'm making X amount of money per year. I'm serving X many clients. It does come true. It is so freaky. And then the other thing that I have found really helpful is to have a vision holder. So a vision holder is another person. It could be your friend, it could be your parent, it could be your coach, it could be your partner, anybody that you can really trust who wants to see you grow. And you tell that person, look, I want to become this person. This is where I see my life. This is what I see me doing. This is how I see me acting. I want you to please lock in that vision and hold it for me. So then anytime that you are making a big decision and you're inclined to play small, let's say that you're being offered a new job and you know that it's not the salary that you want, but you don't know how to negotiate. You go to your vision holder and you say to them, I'm making this decision. Does it align with the vision you're holding for me? And then that person very honestly will tell you yes or no. So for example, my vision holders in my life are my business coach and my boyfriend. So when I talk to my boyfriend, I say something like, "Oh, I'd really like to get 2 new clients." And he's like, "Two? Try 8. That's not the vision that I'm holding for you. You got to go for 8." So it's very helpful having somebody non-judgmental whom you can trust in your life that
Yeah.
can hold that vision for you, that serves as a constant reminder.
Yeah. For those that are used to my content, that's what I call an accountability buddy.
Love
I
that.
love that. And that is important because here's what I want to talk about. Um, and I'll be transparent and vulnerable about it. There are days that I still experience self-doubt. There are days that I fall off track. I got a really nasty email from somebody last night, and I know I'm growing because I did for like 2 minutes. I was just like, I feel I'm doing so much good in this world, and to get that kind of shit from somebody, but I didn't want to sit in victim mentality. So I sat in it for like 2 minutes. I went for a walk to clear my head, to again talk myself into it, to keep going. I feel like challenges and obstacles are detours, not stop signs.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
what you're human. I'm sure you have off days. I'm sure it's not all rainbows and unicorns. So what are you doing on those off days or those off moments? What do you do to course correct? Mental discipline.
Yeah, so that is, oh my gosh, I feel those moments, especially through Mercury retrograde, as do a lot of people. If you're listening and you're someone who is aware of Mercury retrograde, that's when kind of emotions run rampant and things go wrong. So for me, my initial reaction, based on my childhood trauma and growing up in scarcity, is urgency. So my initial reaction is, oh my God, I have to do something. I have to do something about this right now.
Yeah.
So then my version, who I want to be, the person that I'm holding in that vision, says, no, you don't need to do anything. This is not a question of doing. This is a question of stillness. So honestly,
Wow.
the best thing for me to do on an off day is just to get a really good day of sleep. I would sleep. I have my Kindle in bed, so I would read something like a biography or a fiction book or whatever. I would sleep for 10 hours. And if I don't sleep, I'm just going to lie there and just like read my book and drink some tea. I'm not going to check any socials. I'm going to take a day off if I can. If I really can't, I'll get someone who works with me to cover for me. But honestly, sleep is the most underrated thing because
Mhm.
a lot of the time, I feel like we think like, oh, I have to remedy my low point right now. I have to make myself do and go
Yeah.
for a run and go meet girlfriends. No, just try to sleep. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, that's that manic manifesting. And again, a paradigm, especially in the Western culture. You got to hustle and grind. You got to grit. You got to make shit happen. If you're not working 24 hours a day, you're doing it wrong. And I completely
Right.
disagree with that. So, something you just touched on, I would love to hear your experience because this is, I feel, a lot of people are in this boat in whatever area of life. It is that survival mentality, scarcity, lack, fear, worry. How can we help individuals? Because that's just a habit, right? That's just a train of thought we've let get off course too many times. But you can train your mind to think differently. So for those that are in the scarcity bucket financially, lacking whatever mentality around relationships and dating, what would you offer as advice to help them focus on the abundance, focus on possibility?
Right. So scarcity in love and money really comes down to self-worth. And I would implore you to look at your upbringing and your background because most often this can be linked to something, maybe something you heard or something that you lived through between the ages of 0 and 7. So for me, for example, growing up in a post-Soviet Union country, I always grew up around conversations how people like us, I'm quoting, are broke, and how rich people in our
Mm,
neighborhood are up to no good, and this kind of thing, and that you have to work and break your back with a shitty boss to be making money. So for me, I've had to turn completely away from that while acknowledging it, and then see what other ways there are. So finding someone that you look up to, someone who
yeah.
can expand your vision, can be really helpful. So I'll give you an example with my love life. I was single for something like 6 years, and I really hated being single. I just don't enjoy it. So I was on this Facebook group for traveler women, and I met this girl virtually. And we had a couple things in common. So we were both kind of the same height, same hair color. We even had a couple of friends, mutual friends from college. And she had shared a beautiful story of how her, as a full-time digital nomad, had gone to Thailand and sat down in a bar and met this guy. And now, like a year later, they were engaged and it was her soulmate. And I was like, oh my God, if this can happen for this person that kind of looks like me, that kind of has, the same schooling background, that's like, I've spoken to them, I think we're relatable, then it could definitely happen for me as well. So I started believing that it was possible for me. And then the next step that I did is, again, I thought about how I want my perfect relationship. And when I say perfect, I mean as close to perfect. Nothing is ever perfect, but say 80%.
Yeah.
I thought about what I wanted that to look like. And then I started just saying no to everything that wasn't it. So when you're looking to change your paradigm, to shift your reality, to get out of that scarcity, the first step is to believe that this is possible for people. So someone that you can relate to, that's already doing and having the thing that you want. And secondly, understanding that you have to start saying no to all the things you've been agreeing to that have led you to this place. So for example, with money, if I have been scared to ask for pay rises, it's no surprise that I'm broke because I haven't been asking for pay rises. If I am single, it's no surprise because I've been trying to date guys who don't want to have girlfriends. So really look at where that's coming from in your background. Find someone who is doing the things that you want and is having the life that you want, and start saying no to all the outcomes that will keep you on that loop.
I love that. And I'm a bullet point kind of girl. I came up with three things how you said that. One, find evidence it's possible. Whatever you desire, find evidence it's possible. This is the 4-minute mile rule. 2, creating belief that it's possible for you. And 3, saying no to anything not aligned. So here's an example I think of. And I think a lot of people may experience jealousy or judgment for people that have the things they desire. But as an example, I love Sarah Blakely. She's the founder of Spanx, self-made billionaire, and she's super fun. They seem very humble. Her husband, Jesse Itzler, is also multi-passionate entrepreneur. But what I love about Sarah, she is evidence. And her whole thing is she wanted to support women, literally, right? That's what it's all the undergarment stuff. So she is evidence that you can start a business, start a passion, wanting to help others. She stayed focused. She went all in. And then money was just a side effect.
Exactly. And again, this example, it doesn't have to be someone that you have direct contact with, like Sarah Blakely. I'm sure it'd be difficult to get in contact with her, but this is why I love biography so much. Pick up a biography, read about someone you admire, and see how they've been to all these trials and tribulations to get to where they are today. Like one person I can think of is The Rock, so Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He's just such a cool actor, and he has literally started from nothing, and he grinds at the gym. And obviously, like, grinding at the gym at 4 a.m. is not my thing, but the resilience aspect, I love that. And now that's the story of a person that's a Hollywood icon, started from zero. Sarah Blakely, another great example. Even Oprah, there's so many amazing people out there. So we're not short for people to expand our vision.
Well, another one that comes to mind, I watched a documentary last week, Elon Musk. And so this documentary on Elon Musk, what I love about this man, I mean, he's definitely out there, right? Like, that guy is a visionary. But here's what I really got from the documentary. He has mental resilience, which is what any of us need to really, like, wake up. If you fall down, you get back up. So he has mental resilience. He has a vision. He's fully committed and embraces failure. He's like, because it was all about building rockets to go to Mars. But his whole thing was, he like invested his life savings into SpaceX many years ago, multi-millions of dollars to build this rocket, to fail, to learn how to build a better one. So, like, yes, use these other people as examples. So here's what I want to ask you. What are some of your daily rituals that you do to keep you like in the energetics and the vibration of this constantly becoming the best version of you?
Sure. So a couple of things that I literally can't have my day without is my walks. I try to walk for at least, it depends on how much time I have, but I have a little ring that tracks my steps and I try to go for 20,000 steps, even half
Wow.
10,000 steps is great because it's really light exercise. So it keeps me healthy. But also it allows me to clear my head. So when I'm walking around, I usually go to a park just near my house. I'm usually listening to audiobooks or I'm listening to music. So my walks are something that keeps me very like tuned up physically and mentally. Another thing that I practice a lot is micro upgrades. So for example, I would treat myself to something nice every week or at least every month. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be like a really nice candle for my living room. It could be a really nice shower gel. It could be a new hat. It could be like a new water bottle, but just something to remind me that I'm doing good work and I'm deserving of having nice things. So I'll definitely surround myself physically in my space with these things. And then I would say that the other thing, which is very simple to do, is if you're familiar with morning pages, this comes from the name of the author escapes me, but it's the author who helped Liz Gilbert write Eat, Pray, Love. So morning pages is when you wake up and you grab a piece of paper, and for 5 to 10 minutes, you just write your train of thought. So you can write stuff like, okay, it's 6 a.m. I wish I woke up at 5:30, but I guess this will do. That's fine. What am I going to do today? My agenda. So you start with very train of thought things until you get to the deeper stuff and you write everything by hand because that way you're able to express better.
Mm.
And it's also a nice kind of mind-body connection. And then when you're done with your page, don't read it, don't keep it. You can throw it away, but you've gotten everything out of your head and you're prepared for the day that is coming to you.
I love that. And well, especially the morning pages, because you're right. I think what happens is a lot of people, especially it tends to be my clients, very analytical, a lot of mental chaos. And that's my, like, you got to get out of your head onto pen and paper because otherwise it's like this monkey mind that just stays going crazy. What I loved, because I've never heard this before, is the micro upgrades. And, for some people, if you have to start small, it could be treating yourself to a Starbucks. Because
Yes.
maybe I don't drink coffee, but if you're used to making coffee at home because it's way cheaper, Starbucks is expensive. But treating yourself to that coffee, treating yourself to an afternoon walking meditation, treating yourself to whatever. I guess what I think of that as like filling up your cup, feeling worthy, right? Is that how you would explain it?
That's exactly it. And I'm a big coffee drinker myself. So one thing that I would do is I would pick, and this may be a little bit intimidating at first, but you will find that in every major mindset book. Find the nicest place in your town. It could be a hotel that's a 5-star hotel. It could be like a fancy restaurant, and just go and have a coffee there. So you don't have to bowl out. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars. Just go have a coffee, whether you go to Starbucks or to the most expensive place in your town. It's probably still going to be like a $5, $6 coffee. So once a week, go there and bring your journal and just sip on your coffee and journal and observe people because chances are you will realize that you're just as good as these people who are socially elevated and you can have the same. So for me, I would go to the nicest brunch place in town and I would bring my either my journal or my iPad and I would put on my nice shirt and I'll just go have a flat white in the morning for like 45 minutes and just sit there and be like, yeah, so we're really fancy, aren't we? I'm just talking
Yeah.
to myself and it's like, yes, yes, we are. We like this life. Cool. What are we going to do to keep this life?
Yeah. Well, and it's feeling the energy of it. It's kind of like I remember years ago, I don't remember why or whatever, but I got to fly first class. And once you've experienced flying first class, it is hard to go back to coach. Now,
That's
when I
right.
can and when I have the opportunities, yes, I will upgrade to first class, but I also definitely fly in economy. But the point is, when you've experienced that, when you're around the energy of it, you start thinking bigger. The mind starts thinking of ways it could happen rather than
Exactly.
it's so easy to latch on to disempowering, talking yourself out of it. Something else I asked you before we started recording was if you could give humanity a billboard message, what do you want people to know? Do you remember what you told me?
I think what I said earlier was you hold the power. And the reason for that is we tend to think that a lot of things are happening to us, forgetting that we can step out and change our lives whenever we want to.
Yeah.
So I was speaking to you earlier about when I decided to make a drastic move and change my life in 2017. I had just been fired from the startup job that I hated. So I made myself get fired. And I decided that I wanted to change everything. So I was already renting a room. I sublet that. I bought a one-way ticket to the Dominican Republic, and I lived in a tree house, which was a part of a hotel, where I had emailed the hotel and said, "Hey, would you like me to run your Instagram account for you in exchange for a free room?" And because it was off season, they said, "Sure." So I went over there, and in the 1 month that I stayed there, it was something like 21 days, I started looking for online clients. I was like, I need someone to hire me over my laptop so I don't have to go to an office. And it happened. And so, had I thought that, oh no, I just got fired, this really sucks. Now I have to go to finding another job, but I'll probably hate that too. I'm letting myself take me away, like life take me away. And I'm going through the motions, like you say, Heather. And I decided to embrace my power and just kind of put everything into freeze frame and be like, but what if we did something drastically different? So
Mm.
again, if someone's listening and you've got a full-time job, I obviously don't want you to be like, okay, Dayana said I should quit. You don't have to do that. But if you can, if you're exploring a different reality, whenever you have paid time off, take a week, go stay someplace, volunteer if you can, so you can stay for free and see what your life could be like. Really don't be shy to think outside your current box into a bigger box because you hold the power to unlock that box.
Oh, I love that so much. And the digital nomad isn't for everyone, but whatever your vision is possible for you. So, yes, think bigger. Here's what I want to ask you because we've touched on a lot. What do you believe is a key takeaway you want listeners to get?
Ooh, what is a key takeaway? I think that this is the biggest thing. Start acting like the person you
Mm,
want to be right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So, if you want to be someone who is calmer, then start acting calmer. If you want to be someone who's more forgiving, then let go of any resentment. If
Mm.
you want to be someone who is more generous, then next time you see a homeless person, toss them $1. If you want to be someone who is more entrepreneurial, then maybe apply for a side gig or start a side gig from your garage or something. So really just start taking small actions every day that will take you closer to the person that you want to be. Because like you said earlier, Heather, when you look at your life now or a year from now, that will all be a result of the actions you took to get there.
Oh, that I wish I had it in front of me, but I think it was an Instagram post or something just like that the other day, more or less that tomorrow's future is created by today's actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That is a key takeaway to step into to embody that future you. Here's what I want to ask to wrap up the interview. I have a few rapid fire questions for you. One, what is a quote or motto that you live by?
Think bigger. That would be it. Because I struggle with that sometimes. And I go to my vision holder and he's always like, think bigger.
You know what? That reminds me of I don't have any tattoos. I like jewelry. I like shirts with quotes or things to remind me. And something that I just had made last week, I'm waiting to receive it, is because this term keeps coming up for me. And like anytime I see patterns or repetition, it's like just Heather, pay attention. That's a breadcrumb. But anyway, it's the whole idea of like an alchemist to
Mhm.
be the alchemist of your life. And so I got a necklace that says, I think it is a be the alchemist with a heart, like just to
Love that.
remind myself. And when I Googled what that meant, it was somebody who makes things better, turns
Yeah.
things, the alchemy of it. So I love that. Think bigger. What is a book you're currently reading or highly recommend?
Oh, actually, on that note, there is a book called The Alchemist. I don't know if you've read that book.
Oh, yes.
it's amazing. For anyone who hasn't read it, please pick up The Alchemist. It's a beautiful story. It is a very easy read. It reads like a fairy tale, but it teaches you how whatever your vision is will come to fruition, but you have to take some risks along the way. So I absolutely love that book. And then for those who are entrepreneurial, I would love for you to read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, who is the founder of Nike, because this guy out of, I think it was Oregon, started a company that ended up being this multi-billion-dollar venture. And it again started with a vision and pursuing that into so many twists and turns. So it's a really cool visual way to see how things kind of work themselves out, and the how presents to you as soon as you make the decision.
Yes. And okay, I have to highlight that because I feel like a lot of people latch on to the how, trying to make it happen from a very limited perspective, where all these manifestation coaches and teachers tell you the how is never your job.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Don't be scared. I was a very fearful child, and this is because I was bullied until I left Bulgaria. So, some 15 years I was bullied for because I was that nerdy kid. And there's so many things that I wish I had done, like, played sports and had, like a boyfriend in school and, just done really cool things. But I didn't do any of it because I was really scared. And so, to my younger self, please don't be scared because everything works out in the end, but it won't work out if you're hiding.
Oh, yes. And such a great note to end on. Dayana, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Heather. It's been a pleasure.